everyone, and welcome back. I'm pretty excited today because I'm going to do a showcase on one of my favorite sets of all time, and that is the 1967 Topps. You can see I have them laid out in front of me. It's just a beautiful set. Topps, this is, in my opinion, where Topps starts getting back into the game. 66 is kind of a down year for me, and so I think they really did a good job on the 67 set. And they were also doing a lot of experimenting in 67. I'll show one of those test sets, an example of that. But there's several others that are just so expensive and so rare that I've never been able to get my hands on a copy. You know, things like the Punch Out or the 67 colored discs. Very rare stuff, but it's hard to find. But the 1967 set as a whole, very beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and start showing these cards off. The 1967, the champs with Frank and Brooks Robinson, commemorating that 66 World Series team. This is going to be Whitey Ford's last card. The dominant years for the Yankees are over, and they're starting to go into a drought, which they won't become dominant again into the late 70s when they have Reggie Jackson. Lots of good Hall of Famers in here. A nice looking Al Kaline. They use really good imagery on here, and the way that the names are actually the team names are superimposed in color really adds to the appeal to me. Got a couple nice high grade commons as well, anywhere from near mint to mint 8 to near mint 7 on those commons. And then a lot of the Hall of Famers love that Don Drysdale. It's probably one of my more favorite Drysdale cards from the 60s. And then Topps comes out with their checklist cards with the floating heads. We'll see that in 68 and 69 as well with those checklist cards. I love it because you can actually get a Hall of Famer without having to pay the premium price of a Hall of Famer. You'll see there's quite a few guys, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Clemente, all in this checklist series. And then the multiplayer cards, which I really like because they tell a story there. Curt Flood and Lou Brock, two of the great outfielders for the Cardinals in the late 60s. And then Frank Robinson, we're finally seeing him for the first time in an Orioles uniform. All he did in 66 was win the Triple Crown and the World Series. Talk about one of the greatest trades of all time when they got him from the Reds. And we'll see a league leaders cards too that kind of commemorate that Triple Crown. Another high quality common there with the Ken Jensen at 8. And here we go. We're talking again. Mickey Mantle makes the checklist for the second series. And then this is actually Steve Carlton's second year card. Many of you know 65 is his rookie year, but he did not have a card in 66. So 67 is the first time he has his own card. Another thing I like about the 67 set is that World Series subset. They do the wood grain homage almost to 55 Bowman, which I'm a huge fan of. Just the way that card is. There it is. It shows Jim Palmer pitching in the World Series Game 2. Like that a lot. There's a nice near mint 7 Bruce Howard common. And then the Hall of Fame flavor continues here with the Willie Mays on the left, and then his checklist card, on the right, the floating head, which I know some people debate. They're not fans of it. I just love it. I love that floating head. Something about it. And then one of the best looking Bob Gibson cards from the 60s, him there in that semi-action pose. That's what it is. It's the semi-action poses. For a portrait set, they really did a good job. I'm not a big fan of the portrait sets typically, but they did an excellent job on these. Mike Ryan at 8, Ernie Banks. Here's a Gil Hodges managerial card for the Senators. Now we're going into some of the league leaders. This is actually these are the last cards you're gonna see of Sandy Koufax. He doesn't have a regular issue 67 because he retired in 66, but boy, he led the league in ERA and wins as well. I think that is. I don't know if that's ERA. That pitching leaders has got 4 Hall of Famers on it. I like this. Those are from the Juan Marichal and the Bob Gibson and Gaylord Perry too. All 3 of those guys I collect. Don't have really a Koufax collection. But it's pretty cool, and you get a chance to see what who really the great hitters or the great pitchers were back in those eras that you may not often know. Like maybe not a lot of people know about Boog Powell, but you can see right here he was number 3 in the league in RBIs and home runs in 1966. Not many people know that Tony Oliva was such a great hitter, but there he is, immortalized on these cards. And at the end of the day, you may love a Hall of Fame player. They're still going to have their own individual cards, but now you have other cards to collect of them. And at the end of the day, Boog Powell is on this card because he deserves to be. Tony Oliva is on this card because they deserve to be. 1967, that's a beautiful Hank Aaron card. Let's see if I can get that to focus a little bit more. Beautiful Lou Brock as well. This Gaylord Perry is an excellent 5, but I tell you what, it's a sharp card, nicely centered too. And then this Fergie Jenkins, I love that Fergie Jenkins. This is probably my favorite all-time Fergie Jenkins card. Just very beautiful colors with that blue, the green outfield in the background there, and that Cubs. Just really cool. Joe Morgan, colorful Joe Morgan card. I do like Joe Morgan's 66 Topps Rookie Cup one better, but this is a nice one as well. Much better than his 68 and 69, as you'll see in a couple of weeks when I post those. There's another checklist. Like I said, really a great selection on these checklists of these floating heads, and I can't even afford probably the Roberto Clemente from '67 right now, but it's cool to have this checklist because I'm able to get a piece of from my Roberto Clemente collection. This is Jim Hunter's best card from the '60s. Nice Hoyt Wilhelm. Like I said, this set is loaded with Hall of Famers. This Fence Busters, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, the only time they share a card together. Look how much taller Willie McCovey is than Willie Mays. They called him Stretch for a reason. I think he was 6'4". Oh, another colorful Pete Rose card. Then this Don Sutton is off center, top to bottom, but still a pretty cool card. This is his first individual issued card as a player. One that he didn't share. He shares his rookie card with Bill Singer in '66. And then here's a classic case of the two variations of the checklist cards. So you've got the Juan Marichal, Know Your Left, and then he has an ear showing on the other one. That's because back in when these are for the 6th series, so they would issue these. One card would come out with a 5th series to kind of preview what the kids should be looking for in the next series, and then they would issue a checklist again when the 6th series came out. And that's why they have a little different variation on those cards. Another example of a excellent 5 that has a tremendous eye appeal. I have no idea why that is a 5, but the Jim Palmer is a gorgeous card as well. Starting to get a little bit higher numbers here. This 480 Willie McCovey, beautiful card. Now we're into the 500s. We start to get to these high numbers, and the 67 Topps set has got some high numbered short prints that are very difficult and expensive to acquire. That's why this set is so popular, because it is elusive. So that Juan Marichal is not hard, but some of these other ones we're going to see are a little bit tougher. This Jim Bunning is a tougher one to get in nice grade, and just because it's a higher number card, I just picked this up in a 5 because I wasn't willing to pay, over 3 figures for it in a 7. This Bob Doublier is just a double print, so not so hard, as well as this Rich Nye rookie double print as well, not as difficult. Now we're coming into some of the key rookies here, and two of the premier cards from this set. You've got on the right the Rod Carew rookie card. Now this is considered a double print, so it's still what I would consider to be affordable, even though it is in the high number set. Now the card on the left is a little bit more pricey and a little bit harder to find. You can see I got it in an SGC, a near mint to mint 8. That's the most I've ever paid for a card. Was when I purchased this a couple months ago. I've got a separate video on that, like my biggest mail day ever. But really a beautiful card. Super glad to have this one. The centering on that Seaver is really nice, and I think it would cross over, and I think it would get a PSA 8 as well. I didn't pay what I would for a PSA grade, but SGC is my number 2 grading company. I trust them. Not to the extent of PSA, but I still have a lot of respect for the SGC grades. And then on to something different. I talked about some of those test issues with tops. This 1967 Mike Ryan. They did a 33 team set sticker set as a test issue for both the Red Sox and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And this for the Mike Ryan collection. Pretty rare stuff, pretty hard to find that kind of stuff. And then lastly, a really nice high-end piece here, this 1966/67 Bazooka panel, a mint 9 there. It's got the Bob Gibson for the Gibson collection. The reason it says 66, 67 is because both those sets were nearly identical. There's a few different player variations. This panel was identical. You'd have to have the whole box to know if it's 66 or 67. On the front of the 66 box, there's a small picture of Sandy Koufax. On the box of 67, a small picture of Mickey Mantle. So there's no way to delineate between the two. So beautiful, beautiful bazooka panel in the mint 9 for that. But that is all. I know this is a little longer video, though. Once again, everybody, appreciate your posts and comments, and I'll talk to you again soon.